Joining us now, live and exclusive on India Today, the Chief Coordinator of India's G20, a man who has a content look on his face this morning. I don't know how much sleep Harsh Singla has had over the last several days, but Mr. Shringla, congratulations on a job well done. Were you anxious? Were you nervous in the last few hours? No ended, no consensus heading towards the Leaders Summit, no consensus yet. Give our viewers a sense of all that was happening behind the scenes. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Rahul. And I must say that we had absolutely no doubts about the ultimate, conclusions that our summit would reach, for the simple reason that our planning and preparation started well in advance. And given the efforts by our team and the stature of the country and the Prime Minister's own stature, that we would have an outcome document that would reflect the solutions that are necessary to meet the global challenges of the day.
I'm very curious to know what happens to the G20. Now that you've got the African Union on board, does the G20 become the G21? Does it stay the G20? How does this work?
Well, I think that is a decision for another day. But certainly, I think we are very, very happy that Africa could have a rightful representation in one of the most important global forums. And we do believe that international governance bodies across the board need to reflect the realities of the 21st century. And Africa, as an extremely important continent with 54 countries, tremendous potential for the future, has to have its due recognition. This is also in keeping with our desire to reflect the concerns and aspirations of the Global South. As you know, the Prime Minister engaged the countries of the Global South in the Voice of Global South Summit before we took over the presidency. And our efforts within the G20 have been to ensure that the solutions that we seek through the G20 are those that address these concerns of the developing world, and the African Union is an important part of that.
Rajdeep has a question for you. Rajdeep.
What, Mr. Shringla, first of all, congratulations. You and your team have had a remarkable summit, almost flawless in execution. If I were to ask you, Mr. Shringla, for your biggest takeaway, at the end, what for you has been the biggest point of satisfaction? Is it that declaration? Is it the African Union joining in? Is it just putting it all together at the right place at the right time? What gives you a sense of greatest satisfaction today?
I would say all of the above, for the simple reason that our presidency has to be looked at as a comprehensive whole, a comprehensive effort. It is not only a whole of government effort, but whole of nation effort. And the consequences and I would say results of our presidency really has to be looked at comprehensively and in a manner that encompasses all of these efforts. So whether it is the seamless organization of G20 process culminating in the summit, whether it is the induction of the African Union as a permanent member of the G20, whether it is the achievement of having an outcome declaration in the first day of the summit itself in such a polarized group like the G20, polarized from a geopolitical perspective, I think has been nothing short of extraordinary.
So what was that turning point? As you said, it was a polarized world. What was the turning point? What clinched it? Rahul was interviewing Amitabh Kant yesterday, and he said 4 a.m. in the morning, he sent a message to all the Sherpas saying that, if you have any problems with the declaration, please ask your leaders to speak to the Prime Minister. Was there any prime ministerial intervention that made the difference? What was it that changed it to make sure that you had a comprehensive agreement?
Well, just to give a very brief background, obviously, in today's world, the polarizations that exist also cut across the G20. But India as a country has been very well placed because we are regular invitees to the G7, we're members of the Quad. At the same time, we're members of BRICS, we're members of the SCO. We straddle that ideological space between North and South and East and West. And the country's stature and the stature of our Prime Minister, I think, has been absolutely critical in determining the outcome of our summit. And if we today have a declaration, I think it can be attributed to not only teamwork. I mean, teamwork has been there, but I think it is definitely the stature of India and Prime Minister Modi himself that has made that vital difference to the way that
some
we are
of your
regarded
former colleagues
global
with
high
us
table,
in the
our
studio.
ability to provide solutions to global challenges.
And they've been talking about what a big day this is for the Ministry of External Affairs cadre, the IFS cadre, the fact that a team of young officers have brought together this declaration, tiptoeing around various geopolitical fissures and bringing a consensus which to many seemed quite unlikely.
Well, I mean, we have an excellent team, but again, as someone who looks at it, I mean, I would say that it is Team India that is today won. Team India that has, I think, the satisfaction of seeing our country, succeed in providing outcomes on behalf of the G20 under our presidency. And I think if we had a seamless G20 presidency culminating in the crowning glory of the summit with an outcome document that is very, very substantive in nature, I think that whole of government and whole of nation approach has won.
How was the approach of the Chinese during the negotiations, given the fact that each of the ministerials that happened since December didn't see a joint statement at the end of it? Was that making you anxious? Xi Jinping sitting it out, not coming to Delhi, being represented by the Premier. Do you want to give our viewers a sense of the attitude of the Chinese delegation in these negotiations, sir?
Well, you heard External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar at the press conference yesterday when he said that, if we have a document, an outcome document in the G20 under our presidency, it reflects consensus within the group. In other words, every country, every partner country in the G20 has put its shoulder behind the efforts. Every country has come together to realize the importance of the G20 in providing, as I said, solutions to the vast global problems of the day, which are mainly socio-economic and financial in nature. And from that point of view, I think, when you have a substantive, highly substantive and outcome-oriented document of the type that we see or we saw yesterday, I think it has to be attributed to the entire G20 membership under our leadership of the G20.
But the one question that people will ask is that, yes, we've got a substantive document in place, but the issues that, as you rightly said, polarize the world still remain there, particularly Ukraine. Given what was said in Bali, given what some are saying was a more watered-down version on Ukraine in this document, do you sense that those polarities are slowly being removed, Mr. Shringla? Or do you believe that still remains the major challenge for groupings like G20 to walk the talk on those issues, be it Ukraine or be it even climate change?
Well, you heard what the Prime Minister said, that our presidency has to be seen as a presidency of healing, harmony and hope. And if you looked at the 8 paragraphs that dealt with geopolitical issues under our outcome document, it is under the rubric of planet, people, peace and prosperity. And if you read those paragraphs carefully, you will see a very distinctly Indian imprint of the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in all of those 8 paragraphs, whether we talk about the UN Charter, we talk about respect for international law, or the respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, or we talk about the fact that all these issues have to be resolved through diplomacy and dialogue, and finally that this is not an era of war. It reflects our positions that we have taken right from the beginning of this conflict, and I think this is also a turning point. This is the point in which the international community has come together to look at a document that we've always been calling for, one that reflects unity of the globe, not harmony, not disharmony, unity, not diversity in that sense of the term, and cooperation, not conflict. And I think this is very important that today all of our G20 members across the ideological divide have come together on a formulation that seems to offer healing, harmony and hope for the future.
I have a curveball for you. You've had a few action-packed months. I'm sure you're looking to, just relax once this is over for a bit to the extent that you can. But I'm reading a lot of these reports from Darjeeling, which seem to suggest that Harsh Shringla is being looked at by the BJP as the possible Lok Sabha candidate from Darjeeling. They're talking about your credentials, comes from Darjeeling and the Sikkim region, grew up speaking Nepali at home, father is a Sikkimese Buddhist, mother is a Hindu Nepali, family is well respected in Darjeeling and Sikkim. So your political Janpatri is being spoken of as a true Gorkha, son of the Gorkha tribe, and therefore looked at as a technocrat. You already have the likes of Jai Shankar, Hardeep Puri, R.K. Singh, Ashwini Vaishnav and many others. What's your smile telling me, Mr. Shringla?
Well, look, I mean, I've spent 4 decades in, the service of the nation as a civil servant. And essentially, when you have committed so much of your life to serving, people, I think that will continue in one form or the other. And what form that takes, I cannot say. So, whatever tasks that have been given, you don't question the tasks, you perform the tasks to the best of your ability, but you work constructively towards, what really helps people. And that's been my endeavor right through, and I will continue to work in that.
Spoken like a true politician.
So you're not, Mr. Shringla, very important. You've done what you have, and as you said, you've served India with distinction, so you're not ruling it out. Well, people will be listening to you very carefully.
He's given you the perfect political response. He's not ruled it in, he's not ruled it out.
He's not ruling it out. So Darjeeling, sir, all your people of Darjeeling are...
You have stated what is... Yeah, sorry, please.
I'm saying people in Darjeeling listening to you will say, maybe Harsh Shringla is saying yes.
Well, what is correct is that I am a son of the soil. I have always been attached to my roots, and I've always worked for people in my part of the country, because I feel that, there are very few people who make it up, and you owe it to people to work for them. But that's all I can say. The rest is pure speculation, and I would certainly, as I said, continue to work in a constructive manner.
Sir, we have with us one of your senior colleagues, Mr. Dogra here, former ambassador. Mr. Dogra, you have a question
you're getting very emotional about the IFS and the MEA, and how they brought this together. What do you have to say to Harsh Shringla?
Well, Harsh is one example of excellence in IFS. And Harsh and his younger colleagues have performed brilliantly. So all I can say is congratulations. And Harsh, don't be shy about joining politics. If people are speculating, there must be a good reason for that. So shine there as you've been shining in IFS.
That's someone encouraging you, Mr. Shringla, to make that great leap.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that's a positive or a negative about politics?
I very much...
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Shringla.
No, well, as far as I'm concerned, you continue to work. As you worked in service, you continue to work for the larger, common interests in the globe and the larger good. And I think that would be the endeavor. In what form that is, it's difficult to say now. But I certainly, would want to thank Ambassador Rajiv Dogra for his support throughout. I mean, even when I was Foreign Secretary, he was supportive. And he's always been a great senior colleague and a mentor. Thank you, sir, for your advice and guidance.
Well, all the best to you, both in your present, because the present job continues for some time, and also whatever future plans you have, I'm sure you'll shine.